know if anybody who's joined was here at your last talk, but you were just such a huge success that everybody wanted to sort of like, you know, hear your words afterwards, because they're such sage words in a sort of like an industry that, you know, often you don't sort of like hear these words so much. So, you know, guys, for those of you that don't know Marie, I just wanted to sort of introduce her again, to say that she is, you know, a model agent, activist, you know, speaker, and has the most amazing training program for models. And this is actually what we're talking about today. We're talking about training because it's something that models don't have as a matter of course. And actually, because this is a profession, we at Models Trust, and obviously Marie, very much believe that in order to be a professional, you need to be trained. And therefore, we're having this series. And if you've got any questions, let us know. But otherwise, I am just welcoming Marie. So welcome, welcome.
Hello to London. Good afternoon. Now, today I know that London's ahead of time.
I know, it's funny the way that we're sort of like getting through the day and you're just ending. I know, it's hysterical, isn't it? But anyway, it's great to have you on because, you know, so Marie is absolutely fantastic. And as I said, you know, if you've got any questions out there, just write them down and we'll try and come to them. But really, you know, I wanted to ask my first question to you, which is why do you think training is so important for the model? I mean, why, in your experience, as a model and model agent, activist, etc.?
Well, it's just like learning anything else. You need some kind of training. The biggest challenge is knowing the source of the legit training, because as we all know, all somebody has to do is create an Instagram profile, call themselves a model coach or any kind of a model scout, and they're sharing information that isn't always accurate. They're giving them training that has to be retrained by a legitimate person. And I'm not saying that these are shady people necessarily or they're ill-intended, but there are a lot of people out there that don't know what they're doing. And that's why me, with my decades of experience, offer that as an opportunity, and why I support you in what you're doing there in England. It is absolutely imperative that people get the appropriate education and the appropriate training from legitimate professionals.
From legitimate professionals. Well, you've heard it from Marie, the legitimate professional. So, you know, we have the first question. I'd love to get into modeling. Now, I think that is a question that I get a lot from a lot of people. I want to get into modeling, you know, and I think it would be nice to hear from you why this is not an easy profession. You might want to get into it, but because it seems glamorous, but actually you have to be so careful. And just being a model can't necessarily be your end game. Otherwise you might end up on that very disappointed heap, you know, later on in life. So can you talk us through that, Marie?
Well, what I had just mentioned before about there are some people out there that really don't know what they're doing, and they may not intentionally be shady, but they don't know what they're doing. And when people are new and they don't have the network like I have or you have, they're kind of fumbling through the dark and can be easily taken advantage of. So that's why it's so important that a model gets the proper education to understand that this is a business, and that should come first, and understand how to manage a business, even if it's on a little tiny scale of learning the business component of the industry and understanding that they have to take control. And it's not just about taking control on content on their social media, but it's taking control and doing the research and networking and watching free webinars and watching Instagram lives and participating in their business so that they don't get taken advantage of.
Yeah. So tell me, because you do a lot of training and you've done a lot of training, and also you've been in the industry. So what do you think training has added? I mean, can you give us an example? What do you think it sort of like really adds to you as a model?
Well, it gives you an understanding of what you're supposed to be doing. For example, if you're doing a runway show and you don't know how to walk, you make a fool of yourself, the casting director, the agency, right? Even just through the casting process, if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to get booked, right? So just that as an example. Movement on set, understanding how to move. If you're not a dancer or somebody from a performing arts background, you really don't understand the critical component of being the entertainer and how to physically move your body, because there's a huge difference between an e-commerce model and an editorial model. And if they don't know the difference, how are they going to be able to perform the difference on set? Those
Yeah, I
are
mean,
just two
very
little
good points.
examples.
I mean, I actually hate having my photograph taken, so I'm like, I hide most of the time. So I really appreciate a model whose day-to-day job it is to stand in front of that camera and somehow act. And when we were doing a training, I did a training at the London College of Fashion, and we had this incredible man there who helped them with movement, and actually they blindfolded them and then just, you know, told them, showed them how to get into their body through blindfold. So he would make them move into a movement blindfolded. And a lot of the time, it's the first time any of these models had really thought about different parts of their body and actually mentally thought about moving a muscle into a position without having a mirror or anything like that. Because as a model, that's what you have to do. You have to get to know your body so well. And if you're feeling shy and embarrassed and you're on set and you're not in control of yourself, you end up like this, and that's not a good. You have to understand your body. So it was fantastic, you know, movement you're it's so true, you know. I think that's one of the greatest things that a model can learn.
Decades I've been in the business, and I've never heard of that being done inside of a training facility like you have. I think that's bloody genius. Kudos to you guys. Seriously. As you know, especially when models are younger, which they tend to start when they're younger, teenagers going through puberty, thinking that beauty comes from a filter on Instagram as opposed to just being natural, and being in their body is just an inconceivable concept. It's so much about the aesthetic, like how do I look out there,
Yes,
instead of how am I feeling inside. That's awesome. I'm so excited.
so everybody should try it. Everybody who's listening now should just try that little trick. Blindfold yourself and then try and really, really meditate into your body, really. Because it's just a way of making you, you know, that much more conscious, actually. So yeah, okay, we'll try that. So, you know, there are many parts of training, aren't there? I mean, we could talk about, I mean, that's one technique, but I mean, there are so many other things that you could do. You know, but I wanted to go through maybe 3 things that I feel, and previously in our conversations, that we thought was important for the model, as in training for the model. One was finance. The other one was personal presentation on social media. And the third was how to remain objective about the industry and your place in it while being objectified. You know, so those are the 3 things. So we'll start with finance. I mean, you know, models are a brand. They have to, and being part of a brand is actually, you know, creating a character for yourself, and then you sell that character that retailers find are good for their products. And that is you as a model. That is your brand. But the finance part of it is very important, is because it can make or break you. If you don't understand your contract, if you don't understand what the model agencies are giving you and what they're taking away, yeah. So tell us all about that in your experience. And
Well, finances, ironically enough, making a general statement, are the least concerns of the models as they get into the business. And that's unfortunate. And that's why they need to learn it first, because so often they're so uneducated. Their parents generally are uneducated, so they can't go to their parents unless their parents have super successful businesses, or, you know what I mean? Like, not a lot of kids have those resources at their fingertips. So that's why it's important that they learn about finances. And I'll give you one perfect example. when models go and they interview with agencies, general statement, generally they're so desperate that they don't stop to ask really important questions like, how much commission are you taking out? What kind of deductions in this era will I know will be taken out of my check when I eventually get it? And something as important, so important, is to ask them, do you have a problem with me coming in and getting a monthly statement of my finances? Right? It's this weird kind of awkward pink elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about. But if you say that up front, then you're starting to show people that you're a professional, you're looking to be treated in a professional way, and you set the precedence to that agency and the accounting system that you will be expecting a monthly statement. And if they don't send it automatically, then you'll just gently remind them so that you can keep track of those finances, money coming in and money going out. And also you have to plan for, just because you get that money finally from the agency, you have to find out, what is the payment plan from the agency? Do they advance you the money, meaning that they will pay you before the client pays them? Which that sounds really exciting, but what if the company goes bankrupt? Well, now you've got to pay the agency back because essentially that was just a loan, right? So these are the important things that you have to discuss with your agency. A lot of agencies in this era will not pay you in advance, which is a good thing, because then you don't have to worry about that. But you do have to plan for when you do get that check, how much taxes are being taken out, if any taxes are being taken out, because different countries handle things differently, right? So you've got the agency commission, and then you have the government at some point, whatever country you're in, they want a portion of what you've just made, right? Because in America, most self-employed contractors need to pay what are paid quarterly taxes, meaning that every quarter they're paying taxes so that at the end of the year, they don't have to pay the big lump.
Right.
But this, I don't want to go off on a big lecture about finance, but those are just some really important keys to focus on when they're interviewing with the agencies. And most kids, as I say, just are so desperate, they just want a contract. They're thinking, okay, sign a contract today, boat cover tomorrow. No, it didn't work that way for Cindy Crawford. It doesn't generally work that way for most models. So they have to understand the business is first. So when they're interviewing with the agencies, and honestly, or not honestly, but understandably, they wouldn't be asking those questions if the agency is saying, no, thank you, they don't want to represent them. That would be part of the discussion if the agency is offering them a contract.
Yes. I mean, I think there's very good points there. But I love the fact that obviously the finance is the first topic, because in order to be a brand, to be taken seriously, to take yourself seriously, and to understand that you are earning the model agency money because you're giving them a commission, and it's the way you will survive as a model and a brand. You know, finance has got to be top of your list. I mean, if you get there because you're the right look, that's one thing. But unless you've got the finances, you'll never get there. I mean, I was emailed by a model who was saying that the agency was taking a charge for every email that they wrote to her.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
That is completely absurd.
So you've got to be very careful of what's being charged, you know, and you've got to be, as you said, just a little bit savvy. Ask in advance. Ask for your statement. I think that's a genius idea. Why not? I mean, everybody else would. So, and also, you know, with the loans wise, another model that I was speaking to said that although that they waited 6 months for payment, they didn't get their payment. So basically, they asked for their money because they didn't have any, and the agency said, oh, then yes, I'll pay you a percentage. You have to pay a percentage. I'll give it to you on loan. You have to pay a percentage. So not only were they taking the agency fee, they were then charging a percentage for a loan from money that should have been theirs anyway. So you have to be really, really, really savvy, really careful. So that's our first good point. So the second one is personal presentation on social media. Now, I love this one because you were so good last time. It was just so great. So talk us through social media and, you know, your personal presentation, because actually you said a few things that were just genius.
Well, thank you for the compliment. And maybe you can help remind me of whatever genius I remembered last week to articulate today. But what's really important, as you know, I could talk for 2 hours on just the concept of social media and the brand and how to articulate your brand. The quick version is, from my position, from my point of view, everybody that's on social media should be posting with integrity and mental health in mind. And when I say mental health in mind, I don't mean that they have to be putting, you know, suicide prevention phone numbers on their post. I'm referring to trying to do it in such a dignified way you become a role model for everybody else, and not sexually objectifying yourself then helps perpetuate a better attitude towards other women around each other, and then other sexes around women, right? So you have to project that brand, that family-friendly brand. I think that that's super important.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, on social media, we see so much sexual objectification of models. They're doing it themselves, and then other people doing it with them, which blows my mind. I don't know if I remember this or if I mentioned this last time, but the statistic here in America is 1 in every 4 female and 1 in every 6 male has been sexually assaulted by the time they're 18.
Gosh.
So, yeah. So if they've already experienced that physical violence, that physical trauma, then why are we asking them to do it publicly? Because all they're doing is shaming again. But I don't want to get off on that, because I can talk about a million different things in this. But from a mental health standpoint, it has to start with who they are. What is their legacy that they want to leave behind? You know, what is the essence of their being? Like, if you go to my Instagram, in the bio, it clearly states that I teach models how to become global brands with dignity and self-respect. So that's very important that people do that. And if they don't know what integrity and self-respect is, or mental health, I'll coach them. I do hourly coaching.
Well, it was kind of interesting what you were saying about last time. You were saying about character, building character. And sort of like, you know, often character has come from family values and things like that. But if you feel somehow you've left, you know, you haven't learned that, you know, in youth, you can get it later, and you can nurture that. You can nurture yourself into, you know, into the character that you wish to be. And I think that's very important. But the other thing that you were saying is that brands like consistency. And so, you know, if you 1 minute you've got your hair yellow and short, and the next minute kind of like blue and long, and they sort of get confused and they can't fit you in somehow. They're very, so I wanted you to talk through that again, because I think that's really important, that because often people think, oh, you know, I have to show that I can be different and that I can sort of like fit into everything and, you know, be everything for everyone. And actually, that's a hiding to nothing. I think it was Hamilton who said, if you stand for nothing, you
fall for everything.
You fall for everything. Exactly. You fall for everything. And I think it's kind of like that, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's like, who are you? What do you stand for? And brands like that, because they want you to be their mouthpiece.
Absolutely. And to that point, I think it's very important that people have to start with, I don't know, well, you know what they could do? It might be a little adult-like, but Simon Sinek. Are you familiar with Simon Sinek, the global business coach? I don't remember which country he's from, but anyway, his philosophy in being a business guru is to always start with the concept why. Why do you do what you do? You start with that as the nucleus and then work from there. Don't worry about the sales part yet. Concern yourself with why are you doing what you're doing and how can you be a benefit to other people? So that is important. And most specifically in the modeling world, like I was talking about last time, it's all about performance and what kind of experience are you providing your clients, right? So it's not only the experience in the studio, it's the experience that you're presenting through your social media. And everything needs to be consistent, to your point. Like I see all the time, girls and guys changing their hair color and length. And most clients work from fear. I'm just saying, it's true. They're stressed out. They don't want to take a chance with making a decision that would be wrong and would cause their company to lose money. So they want to hire somebody that has a trust value out there. They have an excellent social media brand, a very consistent brand. This is what that model is going to look like when they come on set. This is how the model is going to behave when they come on set, regardless of gender. And this is the kind of experience, meaning that they're going to be able to show that they can move in front of the camera. So the whole idea is, who are you? What do you stand for? Like me, I'm a model advocate, right? There's no curiosity around me and what I do. I model first, totally 100% behind the model, and then everybody else can come into the fold. But if you're not articulating who you are and what your brand is, then you're sabotaging your opportunity. And if you're posting yourself with too many hairstyle changes, oh, and weight loss and weight gain, and I'm not talking in reference to like fitness models, because that's a whole nother world, but relationship to fashion, you want to show truth in advertising. So it's important that you show an authentic, this is what I look like today, and not what I look like 20 years ago, unless you want to put up something that's a fun throwback. But you have to identify that that's the throwback. Yes. Don't present yourself like, oh, look at this photograph of me. It's like, okay, everybody knows you're 20 years younger. Don't post that unless you're sharing it's a throwback. Is this making sense? Am I identifying?
Yeah, no, it really does make sense. And I think the thing is that it's as you say, I mean, what's interesting about it is it's sort of like it's consistency. So models want to know, a model agency, brands want to know that the model that they're going to choose is going to be consistent to their, you know, the image that they're putting out there. And as you said, you know, if they seem reliable on social media and they seem sort of, you know, steadfast, then that's what they're expecting when you come on stage. But likewise, I suppose if you're a bit crazy, they might not mind for you. that might be all part of the whole thing, and then you can act a bit crazy, you know. But then don't go quiet.
Those are different brands.
Yes, exactly, different brands. Exactly, completely different brands, and they'd expect you to be a little bit crazy on set and maybe laugh and jump about, not suddenly feel like a sort of a shy, retiring kind of person because they've actually booked you because they like your energy. So, you know, I think it's really important.
Can I give them one tip that I think is just completely hysterical, and I'm being a smarty pants? Whether it's TikTok or whatever they're doing, they're in their bedroom, and their bedroom is a complete mess. Like they have pizza boxes, and the bed spread is all strewn across, and there's beer bottles and cigarettes, and they've got a cigarette hanging out of. It's like, are you here? Are you with us? Like it. They
not
just
good for
don't
brand
get,
image.
Excuse me?
Not good for the brand image.
No, unless you want to be that crazy, unreliable, drug addict, smoking, drinking, messy person that doesn't take a shower kind of person. In which case, then e-commerce clients don't want you in their studio because you're going to stink up their clothes.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. I mean, it's the sort of thing you don't think about in the spur of the moment. You just think, oh, wouldn't this be fun? But I think that's really the stress about being a model, because it seems so much fun, but actually you have to curate your world and your image. And actually, because you're 24/7, it is very difficult world to be in. I mean, we're sitting here laughing, but actually it's very invasive. You
Yeah.
know, you've got to be out there all the time. You're not given a rest. It's extremely stressful. And most of the time, people are not sympathetic to the fact that actually it's a very difficult job. So, you know, there's so much against you in one way because, you know, when you're not being taken seriously and then you're not being paid on time and then people aren't taking you, you know, professionally either, you feel like throwing your toys out of the pram and going, well, damn it, you know, why should I remain professional? All around me is not, you know, not paying me, not treating me right, not being respectful. You know, I'm not interested anymore. So I can understand why, you know, people want to throw their toys out of the pram. But I think, you know, Marie, you're right. I mean, it's about being consistent. It's about always realizing that when you're on social media, you're on. It's your brand. Doesn't matter how you feel, unfortunately, in these days. So I think those are really, really good tips.
I didn't mean to laugh like disrespectful. It's just my sister's cat kept knocking on the table where my tripod is. So I'm sorry. I was totally listening to you. I agree with you 100%. And the other thing is about with your brand is I'm going to really ask a sincere plea. I'm pleading sincerely. Please do not shame and make fun of people on social media because it's just cruel and it feels badly. It hurts again. So like to your point, Elizabeth, it's like we might be hurting, but that doesn't mean we should be hurting other people. Right? So we have to keep, if we're in pain, to keep that out of the social media. And I'm not referring to like if I mentioned before, like my two friends died in Chicago in April. I did talk about that on social media, but I wasn't making fun of them. Right?
Yeah.
So the important thing is again, like your brand, who are you? And if you're too controversial, and try to avoid politics. I know it's not easy, especially in America, let me tell you, but avoid politics at all costs. I have good friends of mine that keep putting political things on my timeline and I have to keep poking, you know, on the button, hide. Because your brand 24/7, every platform that you're on, you have to be paying attention to who are you aligning yourself with and what message are you sending out there.
All very, very good points. And so I think that the last thing that we were going to discuss is how to remain objective about the industry, you know, with all of this going on and your place in it, you know, when people are just objectifying you, as it were. So talk us through that.
Well, as we know with social media, again, we have 100% control over what we post. And so nobody can say, oh, well, my agency wanted me to post a shot without my top on. Don't do it. You have the control. I don't care what the agency wanted. You just say to them. And again, this is where that desperation comes up, where you have to stand your ground, just like asking for a monthly statement of your agency and what money's coming in, what money is going out. You have to stand your ground as a brand and say, no, thank you. I'm not going to do anything topless, or I'm not going to do anything with my arm across my breast. Just recently, and I'm not going to call her out, but just recently I had one of my former models who I placed with another mother agent. After I placed her with that mother agent, all of a sudden I started seeing her like with her top off, and I saw another shot of her like buck naked with some shoes on, but you know, nothing was showing. But I was like, I got so upset. I was angry with the mother agent. I tried calling the model, couldn't get her, got the mom on the phone with the mother agent. And the mother agent was like, no, that's not what I wanted her to do. So it's all about communication, right? So the model, the mother agent, the agency, everybody has to be on the same page. What is this brand, right? So it has to be consistent. And if a mother agency compromises that model's brand when she is family friendly, knowing that her parents go to church and they don't want any kind of nude photos or semi-nude photos out there, that mother agent and the agency have to honor that choice, especially when they're teenagers in high school. They have to make sure, again, just like the money in the statement, they have to, when they're interviewing the agencies, my brand is family friendly. Are you going to honor that? Because I don't want to have anything that compromises me or my brand on your website or in your social media. But it all starts with the model not posing for those photos.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like tough, and not being sort of made to feel that, you know, because often you're put in such a position, you feel that you can't say no. And I think really it's so important, if you have that self of value, you know, that value that we've been talking about, and also character, and you understand your character enough, it is a lot easier to say no. So
Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy to say no. I'm just saying you have to learn how, even if you have to stand in front of the mirror.
Sure.
And practice no, 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 or practice it with your friends. Like, you just have to learn how to say no, thank you, and do what you need to do to take care of your brand. That's your job.
It is. It is absolutely the job. We've got a question. A lot of young girls like and are choosing to objectify themselves. How do you address that? Well, I mean, you know, it is a good question. And remember, it is a choice. I mean, you can objectify yourself if you wish to. I mean, nobody's sitting here judging. I think really what we're trying to say is, if you think that you are going to get a better career by making yourself look more sexy, by creating photographs that are, you know, semi-nude, nude, etc., that's the box you're going to end up in. So then don't be surprised when only brands like that look and image are choosing you, you know, because you're not going to get the wholesome brand, you know, that's just the way it's going to be. And it will limit your career. And that's what we're trying to say, because, and it's the same, you know, these days as well with lockdown, when you get a photographer, you know, you know, contacting you and saying, oh, I just need to see you nude, you know, on social media, and they haven't gone through your agency or anything like that, you just say no, because
100%.
nudity, it's your body, and you don't know where those images are going. So you have no control over the IP rights, and you don't know where they're going to end up. And you do have to think about every photograph that's taken, where it may end up, and if you would be happy if it was on the front page of a news article 10 years later. If you were married to
the biggest challenge with most people, like you were saying before, oh, this is cute, this is fun, it's kind of impulsive, and oh, let me just do this to see how many likes or followers I get. But at the end of the day, those likes and followers, that's a very narrow world. When you're posting on social media, it is out there forever, and everybody is going to look. Like we discussed before, it's going to affect marriages someday in the future. It's going to affect children or getting a corporate job. Like, it has the ripple effect into your future life. I'd say the majority of the models that I see getting into the business within a couple of years aren't in the business any longer, because they just couldn't handle the stress level. Not a criticism. Good for them. They made that choice to go like, oh, okay, I can't handle this. Good for them. And they get out. It's like, yeah, okay, now what? They've already established that brand, that level of who they are. So curating their social media is 100% critical.
I mean, I think I mean, I think this is one of the most important conversations to have, really, and every time, you know, I have a session like this, we get onto character, and we get onto self-esteem, you know, and we get onto you know, how you wish to present yourself. And again, I want to completely, you know, clarify that we are not here judging. And if you wish to do those nude shots, then absolutely that is your choice. But either to be bullied into it, or do something that you're unsure of that you then regret, that's when you need to be able to say no, or I'm unsure, or I'm not ready yet, or I haven't made up my mind, and think of a million things. I mean, just as your point, practice on your friends. It's very funny, when I was first a practitioner, because for those of you that don't know me, before I got into this, I was actually a health practitioner. I used to treat people. And so I'm a master herbalist. But this was like 22 years ago when I first started. And I thought, I can't charge people. I absolutely can't charge people. It's just too embarrassing. So I had to ring my sister every day to say, okay, you owe me £30. Because I physically couldn't say it. You know, I had to practice saying it. And I think you're right. I mean, if you find it difficult to say no, practice. Practice saying no. Or practice saying something to your friend that you think will love you anyway, that's a little bit controversial, and you think, well, they love me anyway, you know they will. But say something and see what happens. I mean, test yourself in a safe environment.
Absolutely. And I totally support, back to your point, I totally support choice, 100% choice. If a model chooses to have a more sexual brand, that's their choice. God bless them and live happily ever after. However, that's not my brand. So I can't manage models. Like when I sign a contract with one of my models, they know up front, well, even looking at my social media and then having conversations, they know that I'm very family friendly, right? So I can't be a hypocrite and start posting nude photos of a model that I manage who is sexually objectifying themselves. That's a conflict of my brand. So yes, if they want to do it, God bless them. There's tons of models around the world that do that and make millions of dollars. That's just not my brand. But as an older woman, like a Yoda in this business, I know what happens after modeling. There are consequences. And that's what I'm trying to get them to just like stop and think about it, like Simon Sinek. Who are you? What are you, how are you bettering other people's lives? Because honestly, I think it's like, it is so like dated and old school when photographers are unzipping the model's jeans down to their pubic hair. It's like, really, you can't come up with anything else other than that? I'm sorry, it's just lazy. And asking a model to take her top off, like, okay, what's creative about that? Here we have model 1,000,025 now taking her top off, or, you know, his pants off. It's every gender. All right, mark my soapbox.
So we did have a few questions. Mara was asking about mental health and she was saying actually that once you're in the industry, as soon as your mental health suffers, that you really need to get out of there. So Mara, I just want to say that, and I absolutely totally agree. And then Emily was saying, is it worth dropping out of university to be a model? I think we both have strong views on that.
Yeah, that's a huge personal choice. And my thought is this: try to stay in college as long as you can. There, as we know, and now with COVID, who knows what's going to be happening with, you know, on-site schools and actually attending in a physical classroom. But there's so many online schools now that a model can still continue to attend college. They don't have to be out of studios just a model. So I think that education is ideal first, like we had talked about before, whether it be through university or college or whatever. And so I encourage models to stay with that kind of traditional system and then working part-time. That is what I encourage. Now, at the same time, as I mentioned before, like when I had discovered Cindy Crawford as a teenager in high school, and then she transitioned into Northwestern University with that scholarship, eventually she was making so much money and doing too many Vogue covers that she's like, okay, maybe I'll take a break from this for a while. But she did okay. It's a personal choice. They have to figure it out what works
to get into university. I mean, if you get to go to university, it's not going to go against you, basically. So I mean,
again, that's
nobody
part
can
of the conversation with the agent when you sit down to be represented by them.
And then Leo is saying, would you say that doing a degree in acting is worth it when you're in the industry to broaden your brand and career options?
Okay, that's a super controversial discussion. And I think, again, it's a personal choice. And I'm taking the word degree literally. Do I think the training is critical? 100% training is critical. Do you
Yeah.
have to get a degree from a university? Some people do and some people don't. But definitely at least some basic training to understand your craft.
Yeah, and I think it's also a way of, you know, at university, you also get to know yourself. I mean, that's the whole point, is that they really character build you. I mean, it is about, you know, if you're finding it difficult to find character, build your brand. That is one of the best things that you do. That's why they can never take education from you. You know, I met this man that had been in prison as a political prisoner, hadn't done anything wrong for 25 years. And they took everything from him, everything. He wasn't allowed anything. The only thing he was allowed to read was the Bible. And but they said to him, you know, my education kept me. He said, education, education, because they can take everything from you, but they cannot take your mind. They can't. And that's why it's so important to always feed your mind and feed your character, you know, because it doesn't matter where you are, what situation you're put in, people can't take that from you. And Elise has been very sort of patient here, but she has been asking and saying that she said that Europe is very different to America when it comes to social media and being more tolerant. I mean, I'm not quite sure that's true, but I don't know what your view is of that.
Well, I don't see it as America does it this way and Europe does it this way, because we're global. We're all one now.
Yeah,
when it comes
and
to
a brand
branding.
is a brand.
Yeah.
Global brand is still a brand, and your character remains. So I'd have to agree with you. She's saying, and pictures as well, but I think it's all the same, Alicia. You know, what we're trying to tell you is that, you know, it's not about being tolerant. You know, it's about your brand and how you want to be perceived, and you'll be perceived in Europe as you will be in America.
Absolutely. And granted, you know, America is much more puritanical and, you know, more like, I don't know, the basic of a Christian foundation. And then in Europe, meaning that they tend to be more conservative, right? And then in Europe, you know, it's nothing for models, just people walking around on a beach, like they have nude beaches all over the place, or girls to be walking around without their top on. Like that's just kind of part of the culture. But that's outside. That's not social media, right? Where yes, it's out in the open, but the model isn't advertising necessarily that they're running around without their top on in Brazil. So it's not necessarily just Europe or America, it's Asia and Brazil. Like it's everywhere. It's a global industry.
Yeah, exactly. Don't confuse culture with, you know, branding.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Well, I think that's been great. You've been, as always, brilliant. I want to thank all of our wonderful followers. Thank you so, so much. And I'm sorry, Tony, but you've just joined, but we are actually just finishing.
Whoever Tony is, thanks for stopping by.
So thank you, everybody, for joining. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you soon. But take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon next time. Thank you so much, Marie. You were great.
Thanks,
and if you missed this, you can catch it on live TV. So on IGTV rather. All right, take care. Thank you.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.